Okay, so what we are going to be doing now, you guys, is we are going to be working on complementary and supplementary angles. So complementary angles are two angles in which the sum, so we are adding, of their measures is 90 degrees. So you technically already know how to do this. This is kind of a play into what we did yesterday, because when we were finding 90-degree angles and everything. So what this is saying is that the measure of angle 1, remember an M in front means measure, so the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals 90 degrees. Okay, so that's what this means. So if you hear me talk about complementary angles, we're talking about two angles that add up to make 90 degrees. A lot of the time it's angles that have that little box in there, or it won't, but it'll somehow again tell me that, and we'll go through that in a second. So then we have supplementary angles. So supplementary angles are any two angles in which the sum, again, so two angles that I'm adding together, of their measures is now 180 degrees. Okay, so what this is saying is that if I take the measure of angle 3 and I add it to the measure of angle 4, that's going to get me 180 degrees. So pretty much the angles that we were working with yesterday, when we added them together to make a straight angle of 180 degrees, we were actually using supplementary angles. Okay, so that's the difference. Our angle 1 and 2 added to make added to make 90, and then angles 3 and 4 added to make 180. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Where can I help you?
Supplementary part.
Okay, what?
I'm stuck at the sum.
The sum?
Yep.
Well, sum means addition.
All right.
Okay.
Yep, he didn't.
Okay, so what we're going to be doing now is we're going to use these diagrams to help us identify supplementary and complementary angles. So all it says is using the diagram to name two pairs of complementary and two pairs of supplementary. We can name more than two, so we can kind of like get our eyes on it and everything. But first we're going to start with complementary. So we are trying to find two angles that add to equal 90. Zoe, you have one? Angle 7
And 8.
and angle 8. Good. Angle 7 and angle 8. This corner right down here. Perfect. Okay, who can give me another one? Yes, Peyton.
1 and 2.
Angle 1 and angle 2. So if we were to stop here, we definitely could, but since we're going through this, I want us to name them all. Okay? So, Elias, you said you had another one?
Wait, I don't know when it is it. So when did it say?
So he said 1 and 2.
Which one? 3 and 4.
Angle 3 and angle 4. Okay, who has the last pair of complementary angles?
5.
Thank you, Hannah. Angle 5 and angle 6. So we only need to name two of them, but this is all four for this specific diagram here. Okay, so now what we're going to move on is supplementary angles. So two angles that add up to be 180 degrees. So they make a straight line. Good. Angle 9 and angle 10. They add together to make that straight line there. Okay, what else? Angle 11 and angle 12. Now we could stop here because it just asked for two, but I want us as a class to see all of them. There are two more on here. No, because those are opposite sides. I need two. Nope, those are vertical angles.
8 and 3.
Mm-mm. So if we did 9 and 10, and then 11 and 12, good, Keely. Angle 9 and angle 12. They just make a different way. They just connect on the other line. Do we see that now?
Yeah.
And then what's the last set?
10 and 11.
Angle 10 and angle 11. Good. Okay, good job. Okay, what questions do you guys have as we're coming across this?
Can I say hi to something? Yeah, can you say hi?
Okay, which one are we going to work on now? So do we understand how to find those?
Yeah.
Okay, so now what it's going to do is it's giving us this diagram and we need to classify each angle as complementary, supplementary, or neither. Okay, so if I have angle 1 and 6, so angle 1 and angle 6, what kind of angles are those? They are adjacent, but we want to know complementary or supplementary.
Supplementary.
They are going to be supplementary.
Can we shorten that up?
How do you know?
I'll
Did we just put sup?
Yeah.
Sup.
Okay, how do we know that? Because if we were to make a straight line here, do those angles line up to make a straight line? They do. You just have to turn your paper to see that. Okay. Now it's wondering about angle 1 and angle 2.
Complementary.
They are complementary. Good, and we know that because when I add angle 1 with angle 2, they line up and form that box in the corner. Okay, so those are complementary. Okay, how about angle 4 and 5? Those are neither.
Ooh, got it.
Do they form to make a straight line?
Not a chance.
No, they don't. They do not. If I were to take my line, if I go on 4, then I have to turn crooked to finish that angle with angle 5.
It looks almost low.
This angle looks almost like a straight line
Not a chance.
Oh, that one?
Yeah.
because it's talking about angle 4 and angle 5.
I was confused about which line.
Yes. So angle 4, if I add that to angle 5, does not create a straight line or a 90-degree angle. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's nice to like cover it up so you can kind of see which angles you're talking about. Okay, now I need angle 3 and angle 4.
Complementary.
Boom, how'd you know they were complementary even though they didn't have a box there?
Well, the other side had a box, so I guess they had box.
The other side had a box. Well, what's 180 minus 90?
90.
90. So that leaves this side with also another box there. Nice job, Peyton.
I'm smart.
So for complementary angles, you can just write comp. For supplementary angles, you can just write sup with 2 P's. Okay? Mm-hmm.
We're going for complementary and comp.
That's what I just said.
Okay.
Okay, so now what we're going to have to do is they're going to give us 2 angles and we need to identify the angles as complementary, supplementary, or neither. So what do I need to do with these 2 angles then?
Add them together.
I line them up. Or no, I don't line them up. I add them together. I don't have to line them up. I just have to take their 2 angle measures and add them together. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take 59 plus 31. And what does that give me?
90.
So what kind of angle do we have here? They have complementary. Okay, what's 72 plus 108? 180. This picture you could tell that created a straight line. So what kind of angles are these? Supplementary. What's 38 plus 62?
Oh.
No, that's 100.
It is 100. So what kind of angles are these?
Neither.
They are neither. There's no special name for that. Okay. What questions do you guys have on these top 3? On number 6, how do I do that though? It doesn't give me a degree measure.
Yeah,
You assume that both of them are 90 degrees. And
Why?
you add them together.
Why can we make that assumption? They have the box, so we know. We're not even assuming. We know that those are 90 degrees.
And 90 plus 90 is 180.
Good. So what kind of angles are those?
118.
Supplementary.
9 plus 90 is 118 and
Wait,
Because 9 plus 9 is
18 and then add a 0.
Can't play
Hmm?
180 then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What are we doing on the next one here?
Same thing.
Skipping it.
106 plus 78. What does that equal?
Too much.
184. So what kind of angles are those? Neither. They're not exactly 180 degrees. It has to be exactly 180 or exactly 90. Supplementary, you have to have exactly 180 degrees. Complementary, you have to have exactly 90 degrees.
What if it's in
That
half?
makes so much sense.
Hmm?
What if it's 180 3/4?
It doesn't count. It's not exactly 180. So then I have 43 plus 47, which equals,
90.
and so what kind of angle is this?
Oh, but I was complimentary.
Complementary.
That's the last word.
So one thing, one.
Good.
Exposure.
Okay,
I was getting them like this.
what questions do we have so far? None? Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to turn to the back side and we're going to have to use algebra now a little bit more with the information that we know. Joey, please make sure you're taking notes. Okay, so on the back side here it says tell whether the angles are complementary or supplementary, then find the value of x. Okay, so on number 9 here I have the angle x and angle 64, or 64 degrees. What do we know?
They make 180.
So they are supplementary angles.
Yeah.
So that's saying if I take x plus 64,
This is the same thing.
you get 108. It's the same thing, but we just don't know what one of the angles is. Yep, so I'm going to subtract 64 from both sides. Technically, I'm setting this up this way because it's easier to understand this equation, and then we move into the next group where it's more complicated. It has 2 steps. So I think it's better for us to understand 1 step before we get to the 2 step. Does that make sense? That's why I'm making this process on like writing that equation so you guys can see that. Okay, so it's kind of just a brain thing for me to show you guys, and then it appears later on. So then I have x equals 116 degrees. Okay, what kind of angles do we have in 10?
Right?
A right angle, so they are complementary. So it's saying if I take angle x and add it to 71, I'm going to get 90. So I subtract 71 from both sides, and I get x equals 19 degrees. Okay, and then the last one, 11, what do I know about those angles? And we know that because they are supplementary. So I take x plus 142 to get 180. Then I subtract off 142. And that gets me x equals 38 degrees. So yeah, if you can do it just fine by like taking 90 minus 71 or 180 minus 64, that's fine, but I just wanted to show you the process on why we are able to do that. Okay, yes, Peyton?
Is that the same thing that we were doing yesterday?
Exactly. You guys just didn't know the names of them.
I figured,
Okay, so now what we're doing is they give us some word problems. So it says if angle A is supplementary to angle B, I know that the measure of angle A is 26 degrees. I need to find the measure of angle B. So what do I know about angle A and angle B? They equal 180 degrees when I add them together. So what I'm going to do is if I take 26 degrees, add that to angle B, I'm going to get 180 degrees. Then I subtract 26. And I know that the measure of angle B equals 154 degrees. Okay, where are we confused? You have to know that supplementary means adding angles together to make 180. and complementary means to add angles together to get 90. Okay? So now with these two angles, if angle G is complementary to angle H, and the measure of angle H equals 63 degrees, find the measure of angle G. So what happens if I add angle H of 63 degrees to angle G?
It equals 90 degrees.
Equals 90 degrees.
So then we subtract 63.
Good. So then the measure of angle G is 27 degrees. Good.
So you have to put the measure.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Good question, Zoe. Okay, it's really important. If you do not understand 9 through 13 right now, you need to stop and tell me so we can go through them. So, because the next step is when we have more than one step involved. Okay, does anybody have any questions? Okay, then we're gonna move on. So now, again, we're telling whether the angles are complementary or supplementary. So complementary, remember, is at 90 degrees, supplementary is 180. I'm writing them down below because until we basically get them instilled in our brain, you will see me write 90 under complementary, 180 under supplementary, just so you don't get them confused, okay? So on here, I have 14, 8x minus 14 degrees, and then 16 degrees. What do those two angles have in common?
They both equal 90 degrees.
Together, they equal 90 degrees because they are complementary angles.
How do we,
Why do we know they equal 90?
because there's a 90 degree.
There's that 90 degree angle box. Anytime we see that box, our brain should click that that's 90 degrees, okay? So what that means is I'm going to take the angle of 8x minus 14, and then I'm going to add the other angle to that, which is 16 degrees, and that equals 90 degrees. Okay, what's negative 14 plus 16? Because I have to simplify, remember?
2.
So I have 8x plus 2 equals 90.
Subtract 2 to get x equals 88, and then divide by 8 to get x.
Good. 8x equals 88, and then we divide by 8. So x equals 11. Good. Okay. Okay. So what do I have going on here?
Supplementary.
This is supplementary, okay? So I am going to go through and what am I going to do with these two angles when I add them together? So I take 6x plus 30, that's one angle. Add 36 to that, and that equals 180. Okay, what do I do now? What's my first step? Simplify. So I get 6x plus 66 equals 180. Okay, now what do I do? Subtract 66 on both sides. So I have 6x equals 114. Now what's my last step? Divide by 6. So x equals 19.
And you don't have to put like an angle after 19.
Because that's not an angle. It's x. In order to figure out what this angle would be, Zoe, I'd have to plug in x for that.
So for 16 you would do 3x plus 16 plus 8x minus 1.
Boom, how do we know they're 180?
Because it's
Supplementary. So exactly, we're going to take 3x plus 16, add that to 8x minus 1, and that equals 180. Okay, well I have some simplifying to do and combining like terms. So what's this pair of like terms? I have 16 minus 1 and 3x plus 8. 8x. What's 3x plus 8x? 11x. What's 16 minus 1? 15. Okay. Now what's my next step? Subtract both sides by 15. So I have 11x equals 165. And now what do I do? Divide by 11. So x equals 15. We're going to go through it so we know how to do it.
It's both one.
Yeah. Okay. Before we move on, do we understand number 17? Would we be able to figure that out, or do we need me to go through it?
Yeah, you need to go through it.
You want me to go through it? Okay. So, what do we know about right angles? They are 90 degrees. So they are complementary. So, Elias, I have complementary angles. What does that mean I need to do with this angle of 7x plus 2 and this angle of 4x? Okay, so I'm going to have 7x plus 2 plus 4x. And what do they equal, Elias?
90.
Equal 90. Okay, now what's my next step, Elias?
Subtract.
Okay, what do I have to do before that even? What am I combining?
90. I don't know.
What am I combining? What on this side has things that are similar to it?
They both have X.
They both have x's, so what's 7x plus 4x? How many x's do I have now?
11,
11x plus 2 equals 90. Now what's my next step?
Subtract.
Okay, I subtract 2 on both sides. So I get 11x equals 88. What's my last step? What was my last step over here?
5.
Good. I have to divide both sides by the number in front of x. So x equals 8. Okay, Joey, I need you to sit down. Okay, so that's how we do those angles there. Do we have any questions on 14 through 17? Okay, the last question that we have is a challenge question. So this would be something like a bonus question. So we are doing complementary and supplementary in this problem. Which one do you think we should do first? Complementary. Why should we do complementary first? No, not complementary.
Supplementary.
Why should we do supplementary first?
Because you said you couldn't do supplementary.
It's bigger.
It's not just bigger, but they both involve
Small.
x.
Oh.
They both involve an x. So if I can figure out what x is, I can figure out exactly what those two angles' degree measures are. Okay? So I'm going to find my supplementary pair first. So that means I'm taking 13x minus 27 plus the angle of 4x plus 3, and that equals 180 degrees. Okay, so I have 13x plus 4x, and that's going to get me 17. 17x. Negative 27 plus 3 minus 24 equals 180. I then add 24 to both sides, and we get 17x equals 204. Divide by 17 on both sides, and now we know that x equals 12. Okay?
And then we just need to plug it in.
What?
Then we need to plug it into the.
Good. Do we need to necessarily plug it into both?
Yes.
No. we don't. We need to plug it into the one that's going to help me figure out what y is. Which angle would that be?
That would be angle 4x
Plus 3. So 4x plus 3, what this is saying is I take 4 times the value of x, which we found out was 12. Then I add 3 to that. Okay? So I'm going to take 4 times 12, 48 plus 3.
which is 51.
So that's 51 degrees right there. So this angle is 51 degrees. So how does that help me figure out my complementary angles?
You can plug it in as like a weird equation.
Okay, what's my weird equation going to be?
7y plus 4 plus 51
Good. 7y plus 4 plus 51
equals 90.
equals 90.
Simplify, you get 7y plus 55 equals 90. And then you subtract 55.
Okay, what do I do next?
So you get 7y equals 35.
Yep.
And then divide by 7. And you get 7. Or y equals 5.
Boom. Questions? So this is a problem that would be like a bonus problem, just so you know.
So I know